One of you must connect with the system,
the ghost explained.
become the temporary core, so to speak.
I'll do it.
How cute. But we need someone with actual potential.
What do I need to do?
Finally.
Initiating full neutral interface and emergency reconstruction protocols.
The cabin of the severed Ghost Rider's head was bathed with ominous red glow. When the control panels flickered to life, they were displaying urgent warnings in an ancient script none of them could read. Through the viewing ports, Johan, Kyle, and Liera could see the other Ghost Riders staring, their massive forms cracking and groaning as they entered combat mode. The ghostly figure's expression grew urgent, its earlier mockery replaced by a grim determination.
Listen carefully, folks. What's coming is beyond your comprehension, and we are woefully unprepared.
The being's form flickered with frustration.
Like it or not, I'm just a head with no muscle. This Ghost Rider is barely functional, even my power core is long gone. We need to activate the defensive measures, or we are all will be turned into crisps.
Liera's voice was shaken but determined.
What do you need us to do?
One of you must connect with the system,
The ghost explained.
become the temporary core, so to speak. Is the only way to power up our defenses.
Kyle felt a chill run down his spine. Connect? You mean mentally? The being's ethereal form was pulsing with urgency and irritation.
Mentally, physically? Do you really need to know the specifics right now? Would it make a difference for you? It's dangerous, and it's your only chance. Just quickly, we don't have much time before impact.
Johan stepped forward, his face set with grim determination. I'll do it, he declared, his voice carrying the weight of authority. As your superior officer, and the strongest mage here, it's my responsibility. The ghost's ethereal form shimmered, and the sound that might have been a scoff echoed through the chamber.
Your bravado is admirable, but misplaced.
It said, its tone dripping with derision.
This isn't a contest of raw magical strength, old man.
Johan's brow furrowed, paused like puzzles by the response, partly annoyed by being called old. What do you mean? Surely a stronger connection would...
You misunderstand the nature of this place.
The ghost interrupted.
This is far from a Ghost Rider cemetery you thought it were, and used to. Forming a neutral link requires a specific set of skills and talents.
Its gaze swept over Johan dismissively.
Skills and talents which you never, I'm afraid, solely lack, and probably never had.
But I'm the most experienced. Johan began to be cut off again.
Experience in human battles.
The ghost said, his voice laced with derision.
How cute. But we need someone with actual potential, not some washed-up veteran who thinks he's hot stuff. We need a mind that can adapt, that can hear the whispers of this place.
Its gaze shifted to Kyle, a hint of intrigue in its ethereal eyes.
Ah, now here's an interesting specimen. I think you will do.
Kyle felt a sense of unease as all his eyes turned to him. He swallowed hard, his earlier bravado wavering. Me, but I'm the weakest.
Weakness?
The ghost interrupted, its tone mockingly thoughtful.
How delightfully simplistic. Raw strength is hardly a currency here, young one. Sometimes it's the ability to bend without breaking that proves most valuable. And you?
It paused, giving Kyle an appraising look.
You seem remarkably flexible.
Johan's jaw clenched at the ghost's dismissive tone, while Liera shifted uncomfortably. The atmosphere in the room grew tense as Kyle grappled with the weight of this unexpected scrutiny and the implications of the ghost's words. Liera looked between Johan and Kyle, her face a mask of concern.
Kale, you don't have to do this. There has to be another way.
The ghost's form flickered violently, its voice cutting through the air like a whip.
Another way? What kind of afterlife do you believe in, girl?
It loomed over Liera, its ethereal form pulsing with irritation.
I don't
Liera began, but the ghost cut her off brutally.
Of course you don't understand. Let me enlighten you. You ignorant child!
It snarled.
There is no other way! None, zero, zilk! Unless you, fancy flashback, want to be torn apart by the monsters! Does it? Because that's what's coming for you if you don't get your act together right now!
The ghost swarm expanded, filling the room with an oppressive presence.
So here's your choice. Connect to the system, or die. It is that simple. Can your fragile little minds handle that? Or do I need to draw you a picture?
Kyle flinched at the ghost's venomous tone, but steeled himself. We don't have a choice, do we? This is our only shot. Johan nodded grimly.
As much as I hate to agree with this thing, it's right. Ancient war machine fueled by Nexalite. It's not our best shot. Definitely not the most reliable one, but it's the only shot we've got.
Oh, how generous of you to see the reason.
The ghost sneered.
Now, are we done with a pathetic display of hesitation? Or shall we wait for the horrors to arrive and rip you to shreds?
Kyle took a deep breath, approaching the console with trembling hands. What do I need to do?
Finally!
The ghost hissed.
Place your hands on the console and open your mind. And brace yourself. This is going to hurt. A lot.
As Kyle reached for the cold metal, Johan's gruff voice cut through the tension.
Watch yourself, cadet. And good luck.
With a final, determined nod to his companions, Kyle placed his hand on the console, preparing himself for what comes next. As Kyle's hands made contact with the console, a jolt of energy surged through his body. He gasped, his vision blurring as a torrent of sensations flooded his brain. It felt as if every nerve in his body was on fire, yet simultaneously numb.
Focus!
The ghost's voice echoed in his mind, somehow both distant and intimately close.
Don't fight it. Let the currents flow through you.
Kyle gritted his teeth, trying to follow the instruction. The initial pain began to subside, replaced by a strange sense of expansion. It was as if his consciousness was stretching beyond the confines of his physical form.
Good.
The ghost encouraged, its voice resonating within Kyle's mind.
Now reach out. Feel the systems of the War Strider. Feel them as the extension of your own.
Kyle concentrated, focusing his thoughts as he'd been instructed. At this very moment, his consciousness expanded, and he found himself immersed in a vast network of information and energy. It was as if he had been plunged into a living, breathing machine. But it was fragmented, incomplete. It was like looking at the shattered mirror, each piece reflecting a part of what should have been the whole system. The sensation was disorienting. Wherever Kyle tried to mentally reach, he encountered abrupt dead ends and severed connections. It was as if he could feel the phantom limbs of a once complete War Strider, echoes of systems that no longer existed. Yet, even in this truncated state, the complexity was overwhelming. Kyle could sense the remnants of the command and control systems, a pulsing nexus of data processing. He felt the intricate web of sensors spread through the head, still feeding constant streams of information about their immediate surroundings. Fragments of weapon targeting systems hummed with a latent power, ready to be activated but lacking means to do so. I can feel it, Kyle managed to say, his voice sounding strange and distant to his own ears. It's incredible, but broken, like a body missing most of its parts. As Kyle adjusted to the connection, he began to understand. This wasn't just interfacing with a machine, it was communion with a crippled, yet still functioning consciousness. Suddenly a name materialized in his mind, appearing as an integral part of a War Strider's being. It was as if this name had always been there, woven into the very fabric of machine's existence, just waiting for someone to recognize it. The name resonated within him, feeling at once ancient and intimately familiar. Kyle knew with a certainty that surprised him that this was more than just a designation. It was the true identity of a consciousness he was connecting with, the essence, or maybe the soul of a being that had guided them this far. Astrea, Kyle whispered mentally, the name feeling both foreign and familiar on his tongue. The ghost's form shimmered, a hint of surprise and approval in his ethereal features.
Well done, kid.
It said, its voice taking on a softer, more feminine tone.
You've grasped my name without being told. Perhaps you have more potential than I first thought.
Kyle blinked, momentarily disoriented by the sudden understanding. How did I...
The connection between us allows for more than just system control.
Astrea explained.
It bridges our minds in ways you're only beginning to comprehend.
She paused, her ethereal form flickering slightly.
Listen, Kale. This name, it's special to me. Intimate. I'd prefer you keep it between us. The others don't need to know it.
Kyle nodded, feeling a strange mix of pride and responsibility. Of course, he replied softly. I understand. Astrea's form seemed to relax slightly.
Good. We can discuss this later. Now we must focus on the task at hand.
As Kyle adjusted to the connection, he felt as if his body was dissolving, reforming into something else. He opened his eyes and gasped. His physical form was gone, replaced by an ethereal body that glowed with a soft, blue light. What is happening to me? Kyle asked, his voice echoing strangely.
You're becoming one of the worst rider.
Astrea explained.
This ethereal form allows you to fully interface with the systems.
Kyle looked down at his new form, marveling at the way it shimmered and shifted. He could see the energy flowing through him, pulsing in rhythm with the Ghost Rider's systems.
Kale?
Liara's worried voice cut through his wonder.
Are you alright?
Kyle tried to respond to Liara's concern, but found himself struggling. He realized with a jolt that he no longer had a physical mouth to form words. Panic started to rise within him as he attempted to communicate. Astrea's voice echoed in his mind, calm and instructive.
Easy, kid. You don't need the vocal cords anymore. Focus on the idea of your words and direct that thought towards the cabin's speakers.
Kyle concentrated, imagining his response forming as sound waves. After a moment of intense focus, his voice crackled through the cabin's audio system, sounding slightly metallic, but unmistakably his. I'm okay. He managed the effort of speaking in this new way, evident in his tone. It feels different, but I'm okay. Liara and Johan exchanged looks of relief mixed with awe. Remarkable, Johan muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief.
There is no time for wonder.
Astrea interrupted, her voice urgent.
The anomaly is almost upon us.
Astrea's voice came again, this time only in Kyle's mind.
Not bad for the first try. Remember, they can hear me or your thoughts unless you consciously project them through the speakers. It'll get easier with practice.
There was a hint of satisfaction in her tone as she added,
It's quite convenient that we can keep our conversations a bit private, don't you think?
Kyle nodded mentally, marveling at this new form of communication. He realized that his interactions with the outside world would require conscious effort now, adding another layer of complexity to his already extraordinary situation. At the same time, he felt a small thrill of the idea of having a direct, private line of communication with Astrea. It was both exciting and slightly unnerving to have such an intimate connection with this ancient, powerful entity.
Kale, we must prepare our defenses.
Astrea's voice scattered across the cabin.
Are you ready?
Kyle took a deep breath, feeling the power of a Ghost Rider coursing through his ethereal form. I'm ready, he said, his voice resonating with newfound confidence. Let's do this. Astrea's voice resonated through the chamber,
Initiating full neutral interface and emergency reconstruction protocols.
Suddenly, the entire structure shuddered violently. A strange ethereal mist began to seep from the consoles and the crystalline orbs, pulling on the floor of the control room. Johann stumbled back, his makeshift legs scraping against the metal floor.
What in the name of the conduct is this?
The mist swirled and began to take shape, forming into a massive translucent dome. As they watched in awe and terror, more of the ethereal substance poured forth, coalescing into something distantly resembling a human. The process was both beautiful and unsettling, like watching a sculpture being formed from living light. It was the night figure, materializing piece by piece. First, a broad chest appeared, adorned with glowing runes that pulsed with arcane energy. Massive pauldrons formed next, their edges sharp and imposing. The arms took shape, coated with ethereal muscles that rippled with barely contained power. Gauntleted hands flexed, each finger articulating with impossible grace for something so large. The lower body came into being, the kilt-like structure of overlapping ethereal plates protecting the upper legs, while the lower legs were encased in greaves that seemed to absorb light. Elaborate filigree patterns adorned every piece of the armor, telling stories of ancient battles and long-forgotten magics.
By all that's holy.
Lyra gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief.
It's creating a body for itself!
The ethereal form continued to glow and solidify, its armor gleaming with an otherworldly light. A soft hum filled the air, accompanied by the sound of crystals chiming against each other as the body took its final form. Johann's face was a mask of disbelief and professional interest.
This is definitely not the intended design for this model of a War Strider.
He muttered, his eyes darting over the impossible form.
I've never seen anything like this.
Astrea's smirk was almost audible in her voice.
Oh, and I suppose you're an expert on cutting edge, anomalous War Strider designs, are you?
She quipped, a note of amusement in its tone. Meanwhile, Kyle felt a strange sensation as the body formed. It was as if he could feel every part of its coming into being, each new addition expanding its awareness. He gasped as the sensation intensified, feeling as though his consciousness was being stretched to feel the enormous form. Astrea's voice echoed in his mind, guiding him through the process.
Don't fight it, Kale.
She instructed him mentally.
Let your awareness expand. Feel the power flowing through you, shaping this new form. Are we becoming something new? Something whole?
Kyle gritted his teeth, focusing on following Astrea's guidance. He could feel the enormous energy coursing through her feral body, raw power barely contained by the magical circuits etched in the armor. Once fully formed, the massive, headless knight reached up with its newly materialized hands, gently grasping the severed War Strider head with a soft, grinding of feral gears. It lifted the head, and them along with it, placing it atop its newly formed shoulders. Incredible! Kyle breathed, his thoughts echoing through their feral form. Astrea, how is this possible?
This is a true power of a War Strider, kid.
Astrea's voice replied, seeming to come from everywhere at once.
With you as in our conduit, we can reshape reality itself. But don't let this power go to your head. This is just the beginning.
Kyle nodded, steeling himself for whatever was to come. I understand, he replied. I am ready. Johann and Lyra stood speechless, their faces a mix of awe and apprehension, as they witnessed the rebirth in an ancient war machine, with Kyle at its heart, Lyra's eyes widening.
Look, there, on the horizon!
Through the dissipating part of their feral form, they could see a strange distortion in the air, rippling and warping the very fabric of reality. It was approaching fast, a wave of unknown energy racing towards the battlefield.
Heads up, kid!
Astrea's voice caught for Kyle's consciousness, a mix of excitement and trepidation coloring her tone.
We've got an unidentified energy wave heading our way.
Brace yourself, this is gonna be one hell of a ride.
Kyle, deeply intertwined with the Ghost Rider systems, felt a surge of something. It wasn't fear, exactly, but a primal recognition for a force beyond his comprehension. Astrea's presence in his mind tensed, like a coiled spring ready to unleash.
Impact in 3, 2.
Astrea counted down, her voice tight with anticipation.
1. Here it comes.
As the wave of energy washed over them, the fabric of reality itself seemed to tear apart. Ghost Riders froze in place, their metallic forms suddenly drafted by what is about to emerge from the rift. Astrea's voice echoed through the cabin, a mix of frustration, weariness, and a hint of dark humor.
Welcome to our personal hell, kids. We're stuck in the twisted merry-go-round, fighting the same damn battle over and over again. Some of us still have our marbles, but others, let's just say, they've gone full cuckoo.
Kyle felt a wave of empathy and horror wash over him. How long has this been going on?
Longer than you'd believe.
Astrea replied, her tone a blend of exhaustion and bitter amusement.
We've been fighting for eons. But here's the catch. We don't even understand why we continue to fight. Not anymore.
Kyle's confusion was palpable. What do you mean? What happens if you just stop?
That's the great question, isn't it? We don't know. We can't know. We're hardwired to keep going, to defend this godforsaken place no matter what. It's like we're stuck on loop, programmed to fight to the bitter end.
Her voice softened slightly, tinged with a vulnerability that surprised Kyle.
But why? What's the point of it all? I wish I knew, kid. I really do. Maybe we're protecting something important. Or maybe we're just lab rats in some sick experiment. Your guess is as good as mine.
Kyle could feel the weight of Astrea's uncertainty. Her frustration at being trapped in a purpose she couldn't fully understand. It was a jarring contrast to the powerful, seemingly all-knowing entity that he had first encountered.
So we fight.
Astrea continued, her voice regaining some of its earlier bravado.
Not because we know it's right, but because it's all we can do. It's who we are, for better or for worse. Prepare yourselves,
She said, all traces of casual conversation gone from her tone.
Kale, I need you focused. The others, brace yourselves. This is going to get rough and ugly pretty quickly.
Kyle's ethereal form flickering with concern as he proceeded Astrea's words. What happens if we lose? He asked, his voice wavering despite its otherworldly resonance. Astrea's response came after a heavy pause, her tone tinged with resignation.
If we fall, the cycle repeats. Everything will go dark. Then I will wake up once again, moments before the clash begins anew.
But what about us? Kyle pressed, feeling a chill despite his non-physical form.
You don't belong here.
Astrea replied, her voice carrying a note of uncertainty.
Your fate is unclear. Perhaps your souls will be destroyed, or maybe you'll become part of this curse. Do you really want to find out?
Lyra, overhearing this, shuddered visibly.
Honestly, that's not an option I want to explore.
Johan's face set into a grim mask of determination.
So what's at play here?
Your only way to leave this place is to win.
Astrea stated firmly.
Survive, and you may find your way back.
Kyle felt a flicker of hope, quickly tainted by realism. How many times have Ghost Riders won before? He asked. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Astrea's voice came heavy.
0.
This sudden realization settled over the group like a suffocating blanket. They were facing an enemy that had never been defeated, trapped in a cycle of feral combat.
Well,
Johan said, breaking the tense silence.
I suppose we'll just have to be first, don't we?
Astrea's laughter echoed through the control room, a sound that was both amused and appreciative.
You know what, old man? I'm starting to like your style.
She said, her tone lightening for a moment.
That's the kind of stubborn determination that might just give us a fighting chance. Keep that attitude up. We're going to need it.
Johan's lips quirked into a half smile, a spark of his old confidence returning to his eyes.
Glad to hear it.
He replied dryly.
Now let's show what we are made of.